Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Jayant, and I'm going to present a topic on B2B solution architecture today. The topic is how to approach and implement B2B multi-cloud use cases in Salesforce. Let us jump into the agenda first. Um, Introduction and background. So from the last few years, we are seeing a lot of customers showing, interest in the multi-cloud implementation, right? And this is to enable them to solve various multi-cloud use cases using Salesforce product. Um, so we are going to talk about this topic. We are also going to talk about how the multi-cloud journey looks like, and how you should typically approach multi-cloud journey for B2B use cases. We're going to spend some time on it. Then we are going to talk about some of the multi-cloud example. To be precise, I am going to present three multi-cloud examples, and then we will summarize and do a wrap up. So before we move forward, a bit on about me. So I have 17 plus years of overall experience. This is entirely in the CRM space. I have worked in Salesforce, in the area of Salesforce from last 12 plus years. This includes, primarily working on the delivery side, project delivery. And I have, over a period of time, I have built multi-cloud expertise, specifically on the B2B side. I've also done some B2C multi-cloud projects, but primarily I've done more work, I would say, on the B2B side. I have worked as a solution architect, a technical architect, and recently also as a principal architect, right? I am an avid learner, so I have acquired so far 26 Salesforce certification. This includes the B2B solution architecture certification, also the B2C solution architecture certification, right? And along with all the technical architecture certification I have done in the past. I'm also doing a bit of enterprise architecture from a couple of years. This is one topic I really like to do in coming days. Currently, I'm working in Accenture, but I have also worked in companies like Brilio, PwC, Deloitte, and IBM in the last 17 years. In terms of these skills, essentially, as I said, Salesforce multi-cloud B2B and B2C implementation, primarily B2B. I do a lot of cross-cloud architecture and also integration architecture, and I am also involved in pre-sales and solutioning. With that, let's jump to Salesforce B2B and B2C products. So Salesforce has categorized the products into two groups, right? So one is B2C, business to consumer, and the other one is B2B, business to business, right? Of course, there are variations to these like B2B2C or B2C2B, etc. too, but we are not going to talk about those today. So on the B2B side, right? So what are the products? You have Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, so Sales Cloud for lead creation, the life cycle of the lead, account creation, the contact life cycle, opportunity management, forecasting, activity management, etc. Right? Typical CRM stuff on the Sales Cloud. Then within the sales, I would say Revenue Cloud. So our product configuration, pricing, administration, generation of the quote lifecycle, CPQ orders, discounts, contracts, billing, revenue recognition. So Revenue Cloud is essentially Salesforce CPQ and billing, and basically this caters to all these needs. Then Service Cloud for the case management side, right? So case assignments, case management lifecycle, case escalation, capturing of case across different channels, omni-channel routing, service analytics, etc. On the field service side, essentially, the service appointments, creation of the work orders, adding skills and service resources, define the type of work for the agents, right? All those things plus the integrations to other systems like inventory, for example. Then manufacturing cloud, which is also built on the Salesforce platform for defining your sales agreements, doing account-based forecasting, community cloud for forecasting, analytics for manufacturing, right? All those things, basically all those requirements as part of the manufacturing cloud. Then of course, experience cloud or communities for sharing the data with the partners, right? Enabling them to, let's say, generate the lead, deal registration, opportunity management, all those things for experience for your partners, right? Using Experience Cloud. Then B2B commerce for your shopping need, right? So shopping experience, storefront, taking B2B orders, providing online self-service using B2B commerce storefront, right? So that's B2B commerce. And then of course, Pardot for your marketing automation needs. For example, your lead nurturing journeys, sending promotion emails, getting a view of your prospects journey, right? That's basically the B2B side of it. On the right hand side, you will see the B2C side. So again, Service Cloud for the customer service, digital channels, knowledge management, omni-channel routing, telephony, etc. And Marketing Cloud for your end-to-end customer journeys, including sending the transaction emails, promotional emails, abandoned cart scenarios, right? Which are also part of Marketing Cloud and B2C commerce, for example. Then B2C commerce for the buyer experience, storefront, capturing the orders, payment methods, omni-channel inventory, product recommendation, etc. Then Heroku, and Heroku is also a platform, right? So typical use cases for Heroku is to build the websites, but also you can you're using different programming, languages, you can offboard the data. So Heroku also provide a lot of database options, right? So you can offload the bulk transaction or the intensive operation to Heroku, do the processing, and then sync back the data back into Salesforce, right? Using say Heroku Connect, for example. Then in the middle, you have some common products. For example, MuleSoft for your integration needs, Salesforce platform itself for customization needs, Tableau and Tableau CRM for your analytics needs, right? And then some of the product connectors, right? For example, on the B2C side, we have Marketing Cloud to Service Cloud connector, which is a productized connector. Then for B2B, for example, B2B and CPQ connector, which synchronize the product pricing and orders between B2B commerce and CPQ, right? So there are connectors also available. Some of these connectors are productized. So Salesforce provides support on these products, but some of them are more integration enablers. So that's about the Salesforce B2B and B2C product. I think it's very important to understand when we talk about B2B solution architecture versus B2C solution architecture, we need to understand, right, what are these products and what, where they are used, what use cases they solve. Then let's talk about the Salesforce B2B architecture, right? When we say, when we talk about Salesforce B2B architecture, we are typically talking about the functional capabilities and the platform capabilities, right? So typical functional capabilities, if you have gone through the Salesforce capability maps, you will understand the functional capabilities, which caters to, let's say, sales, service, marketing, commerce, channel management needs, right? So for example, sales, yeah. So lead management, opportunity management, account management, right? Forecasting, all these are essentially the capabilities related to sales, right? These are typical ones. Then for marketing, right? Campaign management, customer segmentation, management of the end-to-end journeys, right? Demand generation, etc. On the service side, of course, case management, field service, self-service, entitlements, right? Cross-sell and upsell. And on the commerce side, order capturing and fulfillment, viewing of products, pricing and promotional management, part and service purchases, etc. Right? And then on the channel management side, it's more of a partner relationship management. And then on the platform capabilities, you have you have the analytics, you have the intelligence layer, and then you talk about integration in various data sources, right? Now, when you basically map the platform capabilities and functional capabilities, then you get bottom, you get the products, right? The marketing needs Pardot and Marketing Cloud. Sales needs for your sales capabilities needs, you have Sales Cloud and Revenue Cloud. For the service needs, you have Service Cloud and Field Service Lightning, right? For commerce, you have B2B Commerce. For your channel management, it's Experience Cloud, right? And on the top, you can see the interaction happens through multiple channels, right? So it could be via different devices like laptop, your mobile device, your tablets. It could also be via social media. It could also be via phone, direct messaging, right? All those different channels. And then, of course, as I said, right, for analytics need, if you map it to the platform capabilities, it's Tableau CRM, Data Roma integration. It could be MuleSoft, different APIs. Data sources could be various external data sources like ERP, right? Warehouse management system, product information management system, right? Data lake. It could also be order management systems, right? So this is essentially the mapping between the products and the functional capability. Pretty good. Now, this is the main topic. So multi-cloud journey approach, right? We are talking about multi-cloud use cases, right? In which the use cases cannot be solved in one cloud. It goes from, let's say, start from cloud A, it goes to cloud B, it goes to cloud C, right? Could be a mashup of different clouds. So when we talk about, so when you basically approach your multi-cloud journey, you have to consider a few important points, right? So first of all, you need to identify the multi-cloud use case. Practically speaking, there are lots of use cases. I think Salesforce itself has defined almost 35 use cases. Some of these are core cases. For example, manufacturing-based core cases, right? But then it could be specific industry-specific use cases. For example, for financial services, right? So as a solution architect, you are, when you're trying to solve a particular use case, you have to define the problem statement. And when you're basically trying to define a problem statement, you can refer back to the core use cases or specific use cases. And then you should basically see if there is a solution kit already available, right, which can potentially solve your problem. And of course, if you think about it, there could be more than one way to solve the problem, but I think it's important to understand what is the optimal way or what is a good way to solve a certain problem. Then you have the Salesforce clouds and products, right? To think about the which product or product feature that fits into the context of that particular use case, right? Think about licenses, think about the alternative options, right? So for your marketing needs, you can use Pardot or Marketing Cloud, but then specifically, you can also take Adobe Marketer Connect, right? For your product configuration pricing needs, you can use Salesforce CPQ, but consider a customer which already have SAP CPQ, right? Then you have no choice left, right? Then you basically go for SAP CPQ, but you should understand that this particular use case can span across different clouds, right? So it can start in Salesforce and then it can go to, in CPQ. That could also happen, right? Because practically speaking, not all the time you have all the Salesforce product implemented at the same time, right? So you might have to integrate with other systems which are not part of the Salesforce ecosystem. Define the journeys, right? End-to-end journeys. So identify the key personas involved in the use case, right? It could be a sales rep, it could be a marketing rep, it could be a CPQ administrator, it could be a field service agent, right? It could be other sales profiles like key account manager, for example, right? So you need to identify the key personas. You need to understand who is going to do what during that end-to-end journey to solve the particular multi-cloud use case, right? So, and of course, when you think about this journey or the use case, you think about which part of the process will be implemented in which Salesforce product, or the remaining part in some other product. So you have to think about that. Last but not the least, it's also the data model, right? So when you are architecting a multi-cloud journey and you are creating a solution, you have to think about the data models, right? So for example, what are the objects involved as part of the use case, right? Are these object related? Which system should be master for a particular need, right? What should be the system of engagement? What should be a system of reference? What should be um, a system of record, right? To think about all these things. Then think about how these clouds are connected in terms of the data model, right? Um, if you consider, let's say, card to quotation use case, there are at least three products which are basically part of the data model, right? So you have Sales Cloud, you have CPQ, and then you have B2B commerce, right? So if you on the storefront or B2B storefront, you have products and pricing available when you create the quotation, and then on the CPQ side, you have products and pricing available. You need to synchronize these objects, right? How do you synchronize? Using the connector, but you need to understand the data model. And then, of course, the data and process integration. So whenever you're trying to solve a use case, just think about it. Are there connectors already available, which could be a productized, connectors or the integration enablers? You also have to look always. If not, then maybe you have to build the interfaces, right, between the clouds. Then you also have to think about the non-functional requirements, right? What is the data volume? How do you do the, think about the scalability, think about the error handling, retry mechanism, large data volume. All those non-functional requirements have to be considered while defining a multi-cloud journey approach, right? So that's important. Then this is one good example. This is one good example which we are going to talk about, right? Sorry, I have to go back. So yeah, now let's take an example of multi-cloud use case. Okay, so it talks about account and contact modeling, and whenever talking about B2B cases, you will always encounter how do you define, how do you how do you define your account strategy, right? How do you model your account and contact, right? So for a typical B2B customer, some of the typical but important questions are, how do you create the appropriate business-based account data model, right? Before even you create an account, you have the leads, right? Typically, you start with the leads, right? So how do you find a visitor? How do you define a prospect, right? In the context of the B2B company, how do you nurture a lead and help them grow, right? How does the prospect to lead conversion process or a lead to account conversion process, account contact conversion process looks like, right? Do you need, let's say, master governance in place before you do the lead conversion, for example? I think most of the company will talk about those things, right, first. To add to this, in certain cases, or I would say in many cases, right, companies also do have different brands, and the brands, and those brands might be in different countries, right? So there are also legal requirements you have to consider, right? So with that comes, different data and sharing requirements. You have to think about the data, how the sharing between the brands might take place, or between the countries might take place, right? All those things have to be considered when you do the account and contact modeling, because everything starts with your accounts or contacts, right? And also typically, if you think, the customers are not maintained in the single system, but they must be integrated with external systems like SAP ERP maybe, or SAP master data governance system, right? So that brings more complexity, to it, right? So typically, most B2B companies have backend system. It could be Oracle, it could be SAP, right? And overall life cycle of the account, you might have to think about different systems, right? So it's important. Just to give you one good example, and this is essentially related to the account modeling itself, right? So let's say a company have already acquired Sales Cloud, Pardot, CPQ, and Experience Cloud from the Salesforce ecosystem, but they also have SAP systems, right, as part of their ecosystem. So as I said, there are multiple ways in which you can create the accounts or contacts in Salesforce. There are different data ingestion sources. Maybe you have Pardot, right, which is basically used for creating of the web forms from which the leads could be injected into Salesforce, which contains, lead or contact data, consent and privacy data. There could be also App Exchange application that have been installed, which generates the data. Maybe there are some other data sources which injects the data into Sales Cloud in terms of the company information, leads, prospect, contacts, right? And you even might have some of the web lead forms, right? The data could also be coming from, let's say, Experience Cloud. So you have your dealers and distributors and partners, which basically are enabled on the Experience Cloud, and then basically the data is transmitted to Salesforce, right? And this data is the company information, like accounts. It could also be prospect, right? Contacts. So a lot of data is coming to Salesforce, but you also have to think about it. How do you convert your prospect to a customer, right? Typically, in B2B cases, this is done in the ERP. That could be SAP or that could be Oracle, and you must be having a master data governance in place. And typically, master data governance system do a lot of validations, right? It does address check, VAT number validation. It maintains the account hierarchy. You can have multiple level of account hierarchy, right? So this is maintained in the master data governance system. Duplicate checks is very important, right? In the context of accounts or contacts, right? And also this master data governance system also is the system of records, right? And from there, you can distribute the account information to, let's say, other SAP systems or other ERP systems like, I don't know, S4 or maybe even a commerce storefront, right? So this basically controls, the customer information, and then it basically sends this information to a lot of other system. Similar thing could happen for contacts, right? So a lot of data is being injected into Salesforce from different systems, but then Salesforce is the master for contacts, right? Contacts are maintained in Salesforce. They are mastered in Salesforce. Duplicate checks happens in Salesforce, and then it's distributed to other systems wherever there's a need, for example, for code generation, right? This is a very good example of the account and contact modeling. Now, let's look into one more example, which is related to channel management and collaboration, right? When you think about channels, right? So when you think about partners, right? How do you enable partners within the direct sales process, right? How do you manage your external users, right? Dealers, distributors, and other channel partners, right? Which business process should be exposed to the partner user, right? You cannot let's say, expose all the internal business processes to your external user, right? But you need to really identify which of them you have to enable. Now, which system should be used and how the data flow should look like when you talk about a channel management or talking about dealer management, the collaboration between, right? Deal registration, market development funds, logging of the successful deals, and passing of the accounts to the customer support. And those are typical features of a partner enablement, right? So enabling partner access to your Salesforce with Experience Cloud, enabling partners within the direct sales process with Sales Cloud, Revenue Cloud. Do you want to expose your CPQ process also to, let's say, your partners, to your partners? How do you enable the partners with the leads, right? With Pardot. So all those use cases are part of this journey. And what are the typical clouds for this use case? Your Salesforce platform, if you want to customize something, Salesforce Service Cloud. You have the Experience Cloud, where the processes, the business processes are exposed to your external user, Pardot for marketing, and Tableau for your analytics need, right? What are the typical journeys and personas? So your channel manager, your external user, for example, your partners or your dealers, distributors, etc. And of course, sales is also involved, right? What is the typical complexity involved? It could be low and medium. And what are the alternative options? For example, you might even build a custom partner portal because there's a need, right? Which cannot be solved by Experience Cloud, right? So then you might have a custom, then it becomes a maybe medium to high complexity. Third-party collaboration tools can also be used for managing your channel partners, right? That's also possible. Now, in terms of the architecture, if you want to have a short look, right, let's go back to the first example, although I've highlighted more on the Experience Cloud here. So as you can see, a lot of things which are exposed, a lot of business processes which are exposed to internal users could also be exposed to your external users. For example, deal registration, lead management lifecycle, opportunity, creation of the contacts, right? Request for quotation, and also the report, some of the reporting needs, right? These are the processes which could be, exposed to the Experience Cloud users. And then basically in the Experience Cloud, you generate the data. This data goes into the Sales Cloud, right? And then, of course, if you're talking about the customer, this customer could be maintained in other system like master data governance system, and then it could be circulated back to other systems. But Experience Cloud, when you talk about this use case, there are different clouds which are used in the context, right? So Pardot is used, Experience Cloud, Sales Cloud, or maybe Service Cloud, MuleSoft, and then maybe even CPQ, right? If you want to expose some of the CPQ process into it. This is a good example. Another example could be B2B marketing, right? So typically when you talk about B2B marketing, right? So how do you integrate a multi-cloud marketing solution that basically helps your B2B marketing for the direct sales team in Sales Cloud and Pardot? So typical clouds, I would say, would be Sales or Service Cloud, Pardot or Marketing Cloud, B2B commerce for your marketing needs. So how do you integrate B2B commerce and Pardot for abundant cart use case? I think this is a very good example. We're not going to talk about it, but there's a solution kit which talks about specifically about this needs, right? Then how do you integrate your marketing solution with Salesforce? If it is not Salesforce, it could be like Marketo, right? It could be used, right? So and what are the products typically used, right? So Pardot for B2B marketing automation, Engagement Studio for creating the personalized customer journeys, Einstein for lead scoring. I think lead scoring in the context of B2B is very important, right? Behavioral scoring, engagement history, right? And then B2B marketing analytics for dashboards with the availability of the key metrics. These are just, I would say this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are lots of cases, but typically when you try to solve the use cases, right, you essentially talk about you talk about the you talk about you talk about the use cases, you talk about the clouds and the products, you talk about the journeys and personas, and you talk about the data model, right? If you bring all these together, you basically create a good multi-cloud architecture for solving a particular use case. So with that, I would like to conclude this session. Thanks a lot for joining the session today. We are going to talk about a lot more use cases in coming days, so stay tuned. Thanks a lot.